The all-important big news is here. Harmanpreet Kaur has finally won the toss. India have finally won the toss. 7 games. We have not won the toss for the first 6. Finally, there is a toss winner for India. And India elects to bowl first as we present to you the pre-show of the last T20I on India's tour of Australia. I'm joined by Ananya and Gomesh here on the show. Ananya, first thoughts, India finally won the toss.
First thoughts, yay. I guess it was about time the law of averages caught up to Lanning. I mean, she hasn't won this many tosses consecutively ever in her career, so I'm sure she would have been surprised if she had won all the tosses through the series. But I guess, dead rubber, it's good for India that they start with some momentum, I suppose. And Lanning did say that she would have batted anyway. So I guess either way, both teams would have done or are doing what they wanted to.
There are a couple of changes, one for Australia, one for India. Harleen Deol comes in for Yastika Bhatia. Annabelle Sutherland comes in for Hannah Darlington. More or less, not exactly like for like, but yeah, good changes to see, Gomesh.
Well, I mean, it's the series is lost and it's the last game of the tour. I believe that Harleen did not do any wrong to lose her place in the first place. So I think it's just a matter of time she gets some game time in the middle. That's how I look at it. I also added bonus that Harmanpreet gets a couple of overs out of her. Maybe try and see how this middle order works out. We saw Estika did a decent job, but didn't really seal her place, or so to say, in this series. I mean, it's fine because it's the last game of the tour. Let's see how Harleen goes in this thing. But as far as Australia is concerned, I think we have seen the rotation happen consistently, and it seems like they have just extended the batting order a little bit more with Darlington going out and Sutherland coming in. She was again brilliant with the ball in the test match. I think Australia might be coming in with all guns blazing, especially since they are batting first final.
So Australia will come all guns blazing. Gomesh says he doesn't have a problem with the changes that India have made. But Harleen at number 5, too low a position for her in a T20I match.
Look, I mean, originally, maybe a few months ago, I would have said that, but she did a decent job of it, or she showed that she has the ability to do that in the Women's T20 Challenge. Came in around that in that lower middle order for the Supernovas in the first game. I think it was for the Trailblazers against Supernovas, and played a very counter-attacking knock, a knock that almost got her team over the line. So I would have said that maybe that position doesn't quite suit her, but she's shown the ability to adapt. But if you look at her overall T20 record and look at that strike rate, I think, you would question whether that position is the best for her, because she is someone who is a lot like Yastika. They do play the anchor role. There are people who rotate strike better than they do, hit over the boundary. But I think what works in Harleen's favor is that, one, like Gomesh said, she can chip in with a couple of overs, but 2, she's also a much better fielder, much quicker across the ground than Yastika Bhatia. So, if you have two batters who are batting at a similar strike rate, who play in similar ways, these are the things that kind of give you, I suppose, a bit of an advantage over the other, and that's what Harleen has over Yastika, I think.
Okay, so there's one thing that pricks me a bit. Poonam Yadav is playing for the Brisbane Heat, but she still does not get a feature in either of the India T20I squad. She's not done in any of the 11s. Are you surprised that, yes, a franchisee league wants to have her, but no, the India 11 does not find a place for Poonam Yadav?
Look, we did see this with Jamima as well, that she didn't break into the India T20 11, but she had already been signed in the 100. She did well in the 100, didn't make the India ODI side as we expected her to kind of walk back into the 11. But I think India have been very clear through this series that it's about making sure that every player that's picked fills a certain role. We were all very surprised that Shikha Pandey didn't make that ODI 11. But again, the team management came out and said, we're looking to fill certain holes, and she didn't quite fit the bill. And probably, I mean, if you look at Poonam Yadav's record over the last, say, since that T20 World Cup, so in 2021, she hasn't quite been as effective. I feel like she's been figured out by a lot of the batters. They know how to tackle her. We did see how Talia McGrath kind of stayed back in her crease, continued to hit her over square leg or hit her off the back foot. So I think India kind of feel that maybe they're better off with two finger spinners. Rajeshwari Gaikwad is bowling very, very well, is probably India's best spinner at this point. You can't push her out of the 11. You wouldn't push Deepti Sharma out of the 11 because she is your off spin option, someone who's taking the ball away from the left-hander. So, how do you fit Poonam Yadav into this 11 is the first question. But also, I think, India probably feel like she's not the bowler that she was a few years ago, and teams have kind of have a more sure game plan against her. So that's probably something that's counted against her at this point.
Umesh, still no Sneha Rana? Surprised, or you feel that's the way to go?
Maybe as Harleen got the game, she might have gotten. She could have got a game here as well, but I think it's all in the way the team has been progressing. They have been talking about building a pool of players to pick from. Whoever is picked is to come and ready play international cricket, and I think they have seen that Sneha Rana is ready for that, and they're just trying out other players to figure out who the other 25 are. And again, coming back to just adding to what Ananya said about Poonam Yadav, I think it also depends on how many spinners India want to play. At this point of time, I think they are consistently trying to go with 3 seamers, with Pooja being the third. And I still believe she's not ready to be the second seamer yet. But when it all depends on the team combinations and where they play as well. So I think they have gone with what they think is the right team, and hopefully they can finish on a high.
So moving from India to Australia, they've just made one change. No Hannah Darlington, Annabelle Sutherland gets a go. So still no Darcy Brown, no Stella Campbell. We'll directly see them in their colours in the WBBL. So surprised not to see no Brown, no Campbell yet.
A little bit, but again, you understand why that is the case. They played a big role in the first leg of that series in the ODIs and in the tests. So Australia again have been very clear that it's all about workload management for them. They want to make sure that that group of young quicks that they have are fit and raring to go for that World Cup. I mean, this group is obviously going to be rotated until that World Cup, and they will play a big role in the ODIs. So I think the Australian management are obviously very clear as to how they want to manage them and how they're going to continue to monitor their workloads. And Taylor Volemic has been bowling fire, has been breathing fire in the first 2 games. She looks in great rhythm, looks very strong. So they probably want to just continue to give her a go. And as far as Annabelle Sutherland goes, I think Gomesh also mentioned this, that it's almost like they're strengthening their batting more than they are their bowling. I mean, she is a quality bowler. She did bowl exceptionally well through that test match, but it's almost like they want to give themselves a bit of a cushion, because if we've seen any frailties in this Australian lineup, it has been that, when there's any movement, it seems to spook the batting lineup a little bit, and they almost play out of character. So maybe just inserting a little bit more cushion in the lower middle order and saying, hey, we have someone else. Not that Hannah Darlington can't bat, but I think Annabelle Sutherland has proven that she can do it at the international level. So it's also just another opportunity for one of the young players to get some time in the international circuit.
So basically, Annabelle Sutherland strengthens the batting. She is in that 11. So what we've seen in 3 T20s is a very contrasting thing for India. The first one, India bats, they score big, huge, rain interrupts, doesn't go that well for them. The second T20I, they continue doing the same thing, but this time it backfires. They're not able to close in on even a 120 run ball. The third T20I, I'm not batting first finally, and they're going to bowl first here. What should be that approach now that India takes? It's the same pitch, same wicket for them, Umesh.
Well, I think Harman has made it clear that their approach depends on the condition, but ideally they would want to stick with the aggressive approach with the bat, especially in the first 6 overs. When asked, he said the pitch is very different. First one was a lot more batting wicket than the second, where it was a bit sticky. She called the wicket. So I think maybe that is why I think the dismissal of Harman in the second T20 was a bit crucial, because if she had stayed for a 3 or 4 overs, things could have turned out very differently for India. But I think it all depends on how well they bowl, because the bowlers have been excellent throughout the series so far. If they continue to do the job and restrict Australia to a chaseable total, then I think they can still continue the approach, especially with Harleen also there to back up the middle order.
And then Shikha going to come up with another ball of the century or whatever we can call it. Are the conditions bowling first going to suit her more than what we saw yesterday?
Look, I think it's a lot of pressure to say that she's going to go and produce a similar delivery. I think those things aren't planned; they just kind of happen by accident. It's almost like I'm sure she didn't expect it herself for the ball to move as much as it did, because when you look at the original line of the ball, you think, oh no, this is a boundary cut shot, definitely, and the amount it moves in is just, it's scarcely believable. So. I don't think she's going to pull off something like that. If she does, kudos to her, but it's going to be a bit much to expect that again. But again, what I was very, very impressed with was just how relaxed she seemed. Through that tour of England, you could kind of see how tense she was coming back into the side after being dropped against South Africa, and it almost looked like she was just desperate to prove a point. And despite spending time on the bench in this tour, it looked like she seemed much more relaxed. She seemed much more comfortable with where she was and much more confident with the ball. I'm sure that early wicket certainly would have helped that confidence, but I think just generally the way she approached the crease, her run up, her rhythm was much better than it was in England. So weather conditions are going to be much different again. She's going to be bowling under lights again. There won't be as much dew as there was in the second innings. So I'm sure she'll get the ball to swing. And for her, it's always going to be about the length that she's bowling to these Australians, because the fuller she is, the more movement she's going to get in the air. And as she proved through that opening burst, it will be difficult for the Australians if she does get some movement. Both her and Renuka Thakur they trouble the Australian top order, and if they continue to bowl those lengths, it will be a little bit difficult, I'm sure.
So we saw yesterday that Harman did not go for the spinners in the death over because of the dew factor. She mentioned that. Do you see with India bowling first, do you see that changing? Will we see Deepti Sharma being the death bowler today?
Well, I think it depends on how the match goes, because bowling while defending a total is very different from bowling while first. And even I think the decision to go with the seamers was not a bit much of a problem than what the field placements and what the tactics was to bowl at that point of stage. It seemed like they were trying to bowl wide Yorkers, but they had a packed offside field inside the ring with no one out there for protection. So I think the idea was right, but they didn't execute it quite well enough in the second T20I. It all depends on how well India bowls in the power play and take a couple of wickets. Then maybe we might see Deepti Sharma bowling in the later part of the innings.
So time to ask Ananya, what is going to be Australia's approach? First time batting in the T20Is. What are they going to exactly do different, and what's going to be their approach plan here
today? I think regardless of whether they're batting first or chasing, Alyssa Healy's approach is always the same. It's always to go hammer and tongs. And find the boundary early, kind of give Australia momentum like we expect from Shafali Verma for India. I think Alyssa Healy is expected to do the same thing for Australia. So I'm sure they'll maybe take an over or so to assess how the conditions are playing, because we saw how contrasting they were. The first T20I, it seemed to just come onto the bat. It seemed like a road, and then in the second T20I, that there was a little bit in it for the bowlers. The ball wasn't quite coming on as much as both teams expected. So I'm sure they'll take maybe an over or so to assess conditions, see what's happening. And I think more than anything, Australia will be very wary of not losing those early wickets, because that's where they seem to get into a bit of trouble, where it spooks the rest of the order. They play very differently. So I think they will be mindful of not giving away early wickets to the paces, but I'm sure that doesn't mean that they'll be defensive in any way. Like Healy did yesterday, she will continue to go after the bowling if she thinks it's in her area. But I am keen to see what is going to be a good score, because in the first game we thought it looked like 160 would have probably been chaseable on that kind of a track. Yesterday, 120, the way India bowled, of course, seemed enough, or it could have been enough if they had gotten 135 or so. So it will be interesting to see how much is good enough, but I don't think Australia will change the attacking way they approach any form of cricket.
So we'll come down to the predictions, but before that, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Well, I think India fought really well throughout the series. There were a couple of games that were taken away by the rain. I mean, we will never know what would have happened in the test match if there was no rain, or what would have happened in the first T20I for that matter. If the result had gone there, things would have been very differently. They would have either equaled or won the series. So I think the attitude should probably be just to go out and enjoy the game and just have fun at it. So that generally that brings the best out of the players, as we have seen so far. So that is what I would be expecting from the Indian team.
Technically, India have only won one game. That's the third ODI. They came close in the second. They came close winning the pink ball test probably if rain wouldn't have been there. They came close maybe first T20. Again, rain issues. So we can't really say what happened, what not. Technically, India have only won one match. The entire India would want them on a Sunday when even the IPL is not there. What are your final predictions, and who's going to be for you the player to look out for in this first innings? Ananya, you'll start first.
Okay. I'm player to look out for. I'm going to go for. I want to say Meg Lanning, because she's had a very, very quiet series, but she never seems to find her mojo against India. So, who in that top five? Probably Talia McGrath, just because because of this kind of series she has, and it does. I think the nature of surfaces never seems to affect her timing at all. She just comes out and the ball seems to cut off the middle of her bat. So I'm not sure whether she'll have a big role to play. I think if she comes out even towards the end, she will have an impact, as she has through the series. So I'm just going to pick her and not make any score predictions, because both my predictions have been terrible.
Umesh, you need to make a score prediction and pick the player.
For the first innings, I think it just feels like it's going to be Healy's day for me. Maybe because of what I read about her in the morning. I don't know. It just feels like Healy's day, so I'm going to pick her.
So both of you have picked Australia. That means it's going to be a bigger score, is what I see on the cards.
I mean, yeah. Hopefully, it is going to be a run fest, so that it will be fun. Not for the bowlers, but yeah. So I think Healy is going to be the player to look out for in the first innings and score somewhere around 160 again. I think India wouldn't be as bad as to concede more than 165 or 170.
So Umesh says it's going to be 160. They predicted both Healy and McGrath to do well. McGrath is a safe choice, I will say. Healy is a bit bold considering the kind of series she has had after the first ODI. That's it from us here on the Outside View pre-show for the 30-20I. We'll meet you guys in the mid-show. Once the innings gets over, it's Australia batting. That means Healy and Mooney will be at the crease in less than 5 minutes in Queensland. See you in the mid-show.